Mm, no, as I remember, they wanted to extend, but I didn't actually. It's extended, so I guess it's finished.
Okay. Okay, but I think it's such a good program between JAIS and UCL.
Yeah.
Actually, Sensei talked to me when I went to his office in 2019 that maybe sometimes in the next time we will have the same program with our university in Jakarta.
Oh,
So
wow, sounds nice.
I can send some students to JAIS.
Oh,
But
I'm looking forward to
for the
seeing
first
them.
step, we have to sign the what such kind of agreement like memorandum of understanding and other agreement. That's why I wanted to invite you and Sensei to Jakarta for the agreement, but the problem is we yeah we got pandemic this year, right? The COVID-19.
Yes.
Oke, semuanya di on ya kameranya. Oke, Marisa, I think it's already 8. I will start the class.
Yes.
Oke, semua sudah hadir ya. Kita mulai. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning and welcome to our guest lecture on X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy with Dr. Mari Takahashi, an assistant professor in School of Material Science in Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. This is actually the second lecture on the same topic, where the first lecture was conducted in the last couple of weeks on 11 November. And in the first lecture, Dr. Mari talked on the introduction to the principle of XPS. And this morning, she will give a talk on interpretation and analysis of the XPS spectrum. This will be a 60 minutes talk. And after that, we will have a discussion session for around 20 minutes. I believe that this is an important topic for those who want to carefully analyze the chemical state of the substances or material prepared during their research. Before we go to the talk, for those who did not join the first lecture, let me introduce our speaker, Dr. Mari Takahashi. She is, as I mentioned previously, she is an assistant professor in material chemistry, School of Material Science in Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. In JAIS, she joined National Laboratory, which is a research group with the interest in the field of material chemistry and nanotechnology. Dr. Mari Takahashi has completed her PhD in 2018 in JAIS, and she has published many research articles in some international journal on material chemistry. During her study and career, Dr. Mari Takahashi has received some awards such as a Research Fellow of the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, the 98th annual meeting of the Chemical Society of Japan Student Lecture Award, EMRS Young Scientist Award, and also she got 5 other awards. JAIS Excellence Competition Award, and also she got 35 INEU, right? Do I pronounce it correctly, Marik? INEU Research Encouragement Award. All right, without further ado, let me invite Dr. Mari Takahashi to deliver the talk. Dr. Mari, times is yours.
Yes. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your kind introduction, Setia. So, good morning, everyone. It's early time in Jakarta, 8 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to give the second lecture about XPS. So today's contents are more technical and some parts may be difficult, but I will try to explain clearly. So later, if you have questions, please ask me. Okay. So, okay, the aim of the second lecture is to obtain knowledge of interpretation of XPS peaks. Today's contents are review of the last lecture, interpretation of XPS peaks, including initial state effects and final state effects, and other things to be careful in XPS. Then finally, I will introduce one example using XPS for the application. So let's begin with the last review of the last lecture. So, X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, XPS, utilizes photoelectric effect, where X-ray gives energies to the core electrons. As a result, the core electron was escaped from the atom as photoelectron. XPS was developed by K. Sigban. Since photoelectron contains information of the material and the chemical environment of the atom, XPS is considered very useful technique. In fact, binding energy of photoelectron is analyzed in XPS. Binding energy BE value is specific for the element and the orbitals. By examining binding energy, information about the element and the chemical state can be investigated. These are the summary of the feature of XPS technique. Elemental identification and quantification from lithium to uranium can be performed. It can reveal the chemical environment of atoms. Sensitivity is down to 0.1 atomic percent of concentration. Surface specificity, less than 10 nanometer from the surface, and the ease of analysis since minimal sample preparation is required. Although the parameter of interest is BE, XPS measures kinetic energy. The photoelectron has kinetic energy, which can be described by this equation. Here, h mu is the energy of incident X-ray, BE is binding energy of electrons, phi is rank function of the instrument, S is the contribution from the surface. Ke depends on the energy of excitation X-ray, while BE is a specific value for the element and their electron state. By knowing BE, the information of electron state of the element of interest is obtained. XPS measures Ke to calculate BE following this equation. So next, I made exactly the same slides for this, so please omit the slide in your material. So instead, I like to use this one. Spin-orbit coupling is one of important interaction which cause peak splitting. This can be seen in the orbital when orbital angular momentum quantum number L is larger than 0. In other words, when the orbital shape is asymmetry, like this. So here, note that S orbital shape is spherical and symmetry. Spin-orbit coupling arises from the coupling of the magnetic field produced by an electron spin and electron motion around its nucleus. The total angular momentum, J, represents the way of coupling. J is calculated by L plus ms. Since spin-orbit coupling is an atomic property, intensity ratio of two peaks is strictly fixed. The intensity ratios for the peaks in each orbital are shown here. Furthermore, energy separation between two peaks is also decided by the type of element. The dependence of energy separation, this one, on atomic number of Z is shown here. Another important thing is charge of the surface of the sample. Continued irradiation of an insulated sample with X-rays cause the charging of the sample because photoelectrons are removed. This causes a shift of peaks. Therefore, correction should be processed generally using the carbon 1s peak. Here, black line shows carbon 1s spectrum before correction. The position of carbon 1s peak is shifted to 284.5 electron volt, which was reported the reference value. Then, according to this shift, all spectra should be collected. Next, let's move on to the interpretation of XPS peaks. So this is the main part of this lecture. In some parts it may be difficult, but I try to explain clearly. So first of all, I'd like to show the dependence of core level BEs on Z atomic number. So core level binding energy BE values are primarily defined by the number of protons. This is because Coulombic interaction between core electrons and the nucleus increases as the number of protons increases. For example, when you compare magnesium and iron, more positive charges are shared by two electrons in 1s orbital of iron. Therefore, binding energy of iron is higher than that of magnesium. The binding energy dependence on Z scales roughly with inverse of R square. Here, R is the distance between the core electron and the nucleus. Maximizing the effectiveness of XPS required extracting as much information out of the spectra possible. To do so, understanding of the process active during photoelectron emission and access to additional data on similar and/or related samples are required. So far, only through complex theoretical method involving quantum mechanics-based calculations can determine BE. But this is a difficult task because multiple combinations can result in the same or similar binding energies. Therefore, when you analyze data, having knowledge of these two things are very useful. Here, I show various contributions relating BE. BE is mainly divided into two groups. The first one is called initial state effects. The other one is called final state effects. I will briefly explain these two effects first. Then after that, let's see these subgroups. Initial state effect is the effect includes information of bonding with other atoms or ions and atomic properties before X-ray irradiation. On the other hand, final state effect is the effect induced by the perturbation of the electronic structure, includes information of polarization and rearrangement processes after photoelectron emission. Let me explain these effects one by one. So I will explain initial state effects at the beginning. Initial state effects describe any effect that results from the electronic structure of an atom or ion undergoing photoelectron emission that was present prior to the photoelectron emission process. Initial state effect consists of two contributions. One is spin-orbit coupling, and the second is ground state polarization. Spin-orbit coupling is an intra-atomic property due to the coupling between electron spin and electron motion around its nucleus. Since I already explained this one before, I don't say it here. Regarding ground state polarization, electronic structure and charge density of the atom before photoelectron emission influences the binding energy of the electron. Both interatomic and intra-atomic effects are considered here. These two effects are explained by the charge potential model, which I will explain later. So let's see the ground state polarization in detail. Ground state polarization came from Coulombic interaction. Coulombic interaction describes the influence of charge density within the photoelectron emitting atom or ion on the BE values of emitted photoelectron. Intra-atomic effect is derived from the electronic structure of the atom or ion itself, while interatomic effect is derived from the chemical environment of the photoelectron emitting atom in the material. By computing these two effects, the dependence of binding energy on the following things are observed. The dependence of BE on oxidation state of photoelectron emitting atom or ion, bond distance of the atom with neighboring atoms, Madering potentials, and electronegativity of neighboring atoms or ions. Here, I show the dependence of BE on oxidation state. When intra-atomic effect is much larger than interatomic effect, BE appears at different position as following this manner. The tendency of BE for cation is that divalent species has higher BE than monovalent one, and the monovalent one has higher than the metal one. In the case of anion, metal state has higher binding energy than monovalent, and which has higher binding energy than divalent species. So this trend can be imagined through this illustration. When electron cloud of cation shrinks, when the electron cloud of cation shrinks due to ionization, it is difficult for the electron to escape from the ion. This will increase binding energy. In the case of anion, divalent species has larger ionic radius compared to the metal. Therefore, electron is easy to emit. The titanium follows this rule, while barium shows opposite trend. So when it is oxidized, the binding energy decreased. So interestingly, however, the copper shows unusual behavior like this. This is because final state effect become dominant and cannot be ignored. When you compare BE and electronegativity of neighboring atom of photoelectron emitting atom, you may realize that as En electronegativity increases, binding energy increases. So this is binding energy of oxygen 1s spectrum of each oxide materials. So this one so this one can be explained like that. So when the electronegativity of neighboring atoms are larger than this one, electron of this is removed. So therefore, it's difficult for the electron to escape from the material. So that's why binding energy of this one was higher than this case. So when you look at the dependence of BE on electronegativity for other oxide materials, although scatter is noted, a general correlation of BE with En is apparent. The trends limited to specific atoms or ions present in similar structure. This is En plotted as a function of delta BE, the difference of binding energies. You can still see the trend. So please note that En represents an arbitrary scale based on chemical reactivity. So this is the reason why electronegativity value is less effective. So next, let's see the dependence of binding energy on bond length. Here, D is the bond distance between the oxygen and the other metal. When inverse of D of different oxide were plotted as a function of BE of oxygen 1s, linear relationship can be obtained. So you can imagine this trend through this illustration. So when D is short, electron cloud of oxygen is shared by the cation, and thus photoelectron is difficult to emit. This case makes binding energy increase, this one. On the other hand, when d is long, electron cloud does not shrink compared to this case. Therefore, electron is easy to take off, resulting in lower binding energy. So those tendencies, what we have seen, can be understood in the charge potential model. The charge potential model, also referred to as point charge model, can explain all initial state effects with the exception of spin-orbit coupling. This is a highly simplified model that assumes these things. First, all final state effects are negligible. The second, atom I, which is a photoelectron emitting atom, is surrounded by a hollow sphere of radius RV, on which a valence charge resides. Here only valence electrons are considered, since only these participate in bonding. This model is based on the fact that addition or removal of valence electrons will alter the Coulombic attraction of all remaining electrons to the nucleus. The difference of binding energy between metal state and oxide state exhibited by atom I can be written by this equation. So this consists of intra-atomic and interatomic effects. Here, Q is the charge of the atom. Dij is the bond distance between atom I and atom J. This equation clearly indicates that delta BE is decided by two competing these effects. So let's calculate the difference of binding energy for group 2A elements. These are group 2A elements. These delta BE values are determined by the measurement. So we have RV and charge value. So intra-atomic terms were calculated like this. By using the difference of the bond distance, interatomic terms could be calculated like this. Then summing up this one and this one, you can calculate the difference of delta BE. So one thing, I made a mistake in your material, so please correct it. The definition of delta BE is binding energy of oxide state minus binding state of metal state. So when you compare the measured delta BE and calculated delta BE, you can say that the charge potential model can explain the trend in delta BE. Next, let's move on to final state effect. As you can see here, there are many things which contribute final state effects. First, I will explain final state effects briefly. Final state effects in XPS describe any effect resulting from the perturbation to the electronic structure of an atom or ion undergoing photoelectron emission, that is, any effect resulting from core hole formation. Final state effects consists of mainly two contributions. These two. Core hole-induced polarization is an instantaneous effect that results from the removal of a spinning charge, that is the photoelectron. This is not only results in an electrostatic effect, but also in a magnetic effect. This can influence the recorded binding energy in many different ways. On the other hand, core hole-induced rearrangement effects stem from the energy transfer associated with the dissipation of the core hole during the photoelectron emission process. These two things influence on binding energy of the photoelectron. So I will explain about core hole-induced Coulombic interaction first. Since photoelectron has charge and spin, the core hole formation due to the electron emission can be thought of as introducing opposing charge or charge and spin. This is an instantaneous final state effect. Instantaneous means this effect alters kinetic energy of the electron before it escapes from the atom. Therefore, the degree of this term depends on the electronic structure of the photoelectron emitting atom or ion. Here, I illustrated core hole-induced polarization. So, right after the photoelectron departs from its original orbit, core hole is produced in the orbit. At this state, positive charges of the nucleus are shared by fewer remaining electrons. As a result, binding energy of purple electron increases and the electron cloud shrinks like this. This increases shielding of the departing photoelectron, resulting in increase of binding energy. This process occurs instantaneously. Next, I will explain about multiplet splitting. Multiplet splitting is similar to spin-orbit coupling to some extent. When atoms or ions have unpaired valence electron, magnetic interaction between unpaired valence electrons and unpaired core electron after photoelectron emission takes place, which results in multiplet splitting in XPS peaks. So if I schematically explain, core orbital always have even numbered electrons before photoelectron emission. Thus, after photoelectron emission, the core hole orbital has odd-numbered electrons. In other words, it has one unpaired electron. If the atom or ion has unpaired electron in the valence level, these unpaired electrons can interact each other. There are two types of coupling, high spin and low spin. High spin appears at higher binding energy region than low spin. Since many of transition elements have unpaired electrons, they often show multiplet splitting. These are the examples of multiplet splitting. Here, this one, binding energy of 3s orbital for chromium oxide, hematite, and copper-2 dioxide are shown. Since this is s orbital, usually it shows single peak, but here the peak is split. If you see 3s region of iron from different iron oxide, many peaks can be observed. So these symbols represent different final state, but I don't explain in detail now. Similar to spin-orbit coupling, separation energy and the area intensity of peaks in multiplet splitting are decided in each system. Next, let's move on to rearrangement effects. Rearrangement effects consist of these four things: shake up, shake off, plasmons, and Auger peaks. Before going to the detail, I will briefly explain rearrangement effects. Photoelectron emission introduces a core hole into the electronic structure of the atom. Since core hole formation is extreme form of excitation state, it means unstable, it undergoes relaxation processes by energy transfer associated with dispersion of the core hole. There are several relaxation processes. The first one is that after core hole formation, the electron from outer orbital drops into the inner one. Then this energy difference is taken by the emission of X-ray. So this X-ray is called characteristic X-ray. The second relaxation process is that the energy difference is taken by the emission of electron. So this electron is called Auger electron. Core hole formation can also lead to excitation of valence electrons. So this can relax back into their original state or some other states. Rearrangement effects influence kinetic energy of photoelectron when they depart from its atom or ion. So next, so since more than one final state can arise more than one photoelectron peak can be observed from a specific level of a specific element. The peak appearing at a lower binding energy is termed the main peak or no-loss peak. Other peaks at higher binding energy are referred to by the processes responsible. Shake-up process are caused by excitation of valence band electron to higher state. Shake-off process are caused by the removal of valence band electron from the ion. Plasmon generation means excitation of conduction band electrons. In the case of Auger electron emission, the peak appears at different positions depending on the excitation energy of X-ray. Let's see one by one. The first one is shake-up. The shake-up process results from the transition of valence electrons to discrete and or non-discrete levels located close to Fermi level. So this appears as a satellite peak or asymmetry of the main peak. Since such processes reduce the kinetic energy of departing photoelectron, satellite and peak asymmetry are noted at higher binding energy with respect to the main peak. Both stem from the same source. The only difference is the difference energies between the main peak of satellite or main peak and this asymmetry term. So this is the kappa 2p XPS spectra from kappa 1 oxide, kappa 2 oxide, and kappa. The orbital is 2p region. The significant satellite peaks are clearly observed in kappa 2 oxide. So this shows the dependence. This one shows the dependence of binding energy on its oxidation state. The binding on energy of the main kappa 2p peaks do not follow the trends expected from initial state effects. It means final state effect is dominant. Now, you may be interested in why does kappa 2 oxide show such as significant satellites. So these satellites came from the final state of C-1 3D9L, while main peak, this one and this one, came from C-1 3D10 and L-1. So I will explain about these two final state effects in the next slide. So it was proposed that charge transfer occurred in copper-2 oxide when core hole is induced. When core hole is induced in 2p of copper-2 plus within copper-2 oxide, charge transfer from 2p oxygen to 3d copper is taken place. If I represent this electron transfer using all electron configurations of copper and oxygen, they can be described like this. So these are before electron transfer, and these are after electron transfer. So this one, so after core hole formation, the number of electron in 2p in copper is 5. Then the electron from 2p in oxygen is transferred into 3d of copper. Since this expression is difficult to see, we can simply describe it like this. So here, C-1 indicated core hole 2p5, and L indicated ligand, that is oxygen. So this means after electron transfer, the number of electron in D of copper increase by 1, while the electron from oxygen decreases. So since this state has unpaired electron, D9, only this suffers multiplet splitting. So that's why you have multiplet splitting for this state here, 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 but you don't have multiplet splitting this peak. So let's move on to the second one, shake-off satellite. The shake-off processes result when electrons are excited from valence levels into unbound continuum states located above vacuum level, resulting in removal of the electrons from the ion completely. Shake-off satellites appears as broad background at higher region. The difference between shake-off and shake-up processes lies in the fact that electrons depart the system in the shake-off, while electrons doesn't depart from the atom in shake-up. The third one is plasmons. So have you ever heard of plasmon? Let me begin from explanation about plasmon. Plasmon is quantized state of collective oscillation of free electrons, so-called plasma, in the substrate where high density of free electrons exhibits around the Fermi level. A bulk, a surface, and a nanoparticle show different plasmon mode. We call them bulk plasmon, surface plasmon, and localized surface plasmon. Each plasmon mode has a specific frequency and energy depending on the mode and the material type. The presence of plasmon influences kinetic energy of photoelectron. As a result, you will see many peaks due to plasmon like this. So this is the case of aluminum. The interval of these peaks corresponds to the energy of plasmon. The bulk plasmon energy is described by this equation. Here, NV is the number of valence electrons per atom, rho is the density of substrate, and m is the atomic weight of the substrate. For the surface plasmon energy, please divide bulk plasmon energy by root square. The calculated bulk plasmon energy for aluminium was 15.8 electron volt, which corresponded to the actual interval of these peaks, 15.8 electron volt. So finally, I will explain about Auger peaks. As I explained before, photoelectron emission is always accompanied by Auger electron emission. Since this is one of the primary routes for the relaxation process, after core hole formation, because this electron has kinetic energy coming from excitation of X-ray and the difference of this energy state. So this one appears in XPS spectra. Since both Auger electron emission and fluorescence were described by physicists, X-ray notation is often used in describing these respective transitions. An example of X-ray notation is this kappa L3 M45 M45 region. Because I don't know whether you're familiar with X-ray notation, I made one slide to explain it. X-ray notation uses capital letters K, L, M, N, and so on to denote the principal number N. Sublevels within the same N are designated by an integer as a subscript. The value of 1 is used for the level containing electrons most tightly bound to the atom or ion, with subsequent sublevels denoted in ascending order. So this table shows both atomic notation and X-ray notation and other quantum numbers. For example, 2p1/2 and 2p3/2 are the atomic notation. So if I describe them by X-ray notations, 2p1/2 becomes L2 and 2p3/2 becomes L3. So this is a schematic representation of the levels for your references. Although there are two ways to describe the orbitals, they are the same. Then next, let's think about representation of Auger electrons, Auger electron emissions. So Auger electron emission is a 3-electron process. Here I show KL2L3 Auger electron emission from oxygen as an example. In this process, the first step is that photoelectron is emitted from K level, K. Then the second step is that the core hole is filled by an electron from the L2 level. The last step is that the difference of energy is carried away through an electron emission from L3 level. So that's why it's called KL2L3. In fact, other transitions are also possible in oxygen. All transitions are represented like this. Due to similar energies of these peaks, they are summarized like this. One more thing I have to mention is that because this is electron transition, dipole selection rules should be satisfied. This is the dipole selection rules. According to this, KL1L1 is a 4-bit transition. So unlike the binding energy of photoelectrons, Ke of Auger electron peaks change depending on the excitation X-ray energy. Here I show the relationship between BE and Ke again. So Ke depends on the excitation X-ray energy. Therefore, we plot BE, which can be described by this equation in XPS spectra. When it comes to Auger peak, Ke contains the excitation energy of X-ray and the transition energy during Auger effect. Therefore, the peak position of Auger peaks change according to the X-ray source. For Auger peaks, the intensity is plotted as a function of Ke. These are the examples of kappa L3, M45, M45 Auger peaks from kappa 1 oxide, and kappa 2 oxide. When you compare binding energy of kappa to P 3/2 and kinetic energy of Auger peaks, it is found that Auger peaks are useful for speciation of kappa rather than binding energy, because this difference is larger than this. So finally, I'd like to explain Auger parameter. Auger parameter is described by the sum of Ke of Auger electron and BE of photoelectron. For example, in the case of kappa 2 plus in kappa 2 oxide, it shows binding energy of 2p3/2 at 933.7 electron volt, and it shows Ke at 917.8 electron volt. Therefore, Auger parameter is the sum of these two energies, 1851.5 electron volt. So this type of approach can be represented graphically by plotting the Auger electron Ke against the photoelectron Be. So this type of graph is typically referred to as Wagner plot. The slope of unity means slope of 1 means initial state effects dominate, while other slopes means final state effects dominate. So we have finished the main part of this lecture, but there remain several things to take care of. So I'd like to explain several additional things. The first one is flow width at half maximum, FWHM of XPS peak. The final state effects play a part in defining the core level photoelectron peak widths. Since final state effects are more likely to occur within photoelectron emission timescales, the shorter core hole lifetime, gamma, due to strong final effects, results in broadening of XPS peak. The core hole lifetime can be shown in this equation. Here, h is the Planck's constant with unit of electron volt. So, since gamma depends on the system, FWHM also depends on the system. The second one is takeoff angle. The analyzed volume depends on the takeoff angle. As you can see in this illustration, smaller takeoff angles detects photoelectrons from the surface region more compared to the larger takeoff angle. It means small takeoff angle is sensitive to the surface of the substrate. The third one is quantification. Area intensity of the photoelectron peak is described by this equation. So here, J is the X-ray flux striking the analyzed area. Ca is the concentration of the photoelectron emitting atom or ion within the sample. Alpha Pc is the photoelectron cross-section. Kf Kf encapsulates all instrument factors. So lambda IMFP is inelastic mean-free path of the photoelectrons. Since alpha, KAF, and lambda IMFP are already known, so these terms are encompasses into the sensitivity factor F. The factor J is omitted since this remains constant during a particular analysis. Therefore, I is simply described by this. From this relationship, the concentration of element of interest in the sample can be calculated using this formula. So sensitivity factor are given by the XPS instrument company. The last thing is curve fitting in the real analysis. Curve fitting is a method often used in XPS to separate overlapping contribution that may be present within XPS peaks. Here, physical significance of the outcomes should be ensured. How to do it? First, collect reference values for the orbital of the element of interest, including the position of BE, peak width, satellite, and energy separation of spin orbit coupling and area intensity ratio. Then collect your XPS spectra to remove charging effect according to the reference value, such as carbon 1s. Finally, try to deconvolute the peak using the Gaussian-Lorentzian mixed function. So this software is very useful. I use this one. So this is the equation of Gaussian-Lorentzian mixed function. To induce the asymmetry into this GL function, please change as follows. This x minus x0 becomes this one. So here I made several types of functions using this equation. When m is GL mixing ratio, when m equals 0, the function becomes a Gaussian function, while when m equals 1, it becomes Lorentzian function. When asymmetry factor is introduced, the function shape changed like this. Okay, so we finished the most part. Then we have only some short time, so I quickly introduce example of application using XPS. So here I'd like to introduce this paper, Understanding the Role of Buried Interface Charges in a Metal Oxide Semiconductor Stack of Titanium, Alumina, Silicon using Hard X-ray Photoelectron Spectroscopy. The authors are from USA. This paper was published in Applied Physics Letters. So I will not explain very detailed. If you are interested in, please read this paper. So because they used the synchrotron as X-ray source, I would like to explain about it briefly because I didn't introduce synchrotron in my lecture. A synchrotron is a particular type of cyclic particle accelerator, as shown in this photo. By forcing electrons traveling at near light speed in the circular accelerator, photons are produced when the electron's path is curved. Electron path is curved by Lorentzian force using bending magnets like this. So they use a facility, they went this facility, National Synchrotron Light Source 2 in New York. The advantages of synchrotron are these: allowing, sorry, I made mistype, allowing any photon energy to be selected, providing a beam of a narrower energy split, which achieves energy resolution with a value of 0.1 electron volt or better, yielding a much higher photon flux per unit area. On the other hand, disadvantages are these: a synchrotron is needed. Greater sample degradation can occur during analysis, particularly to organic samples. In their study, they used hard X-ray, which have shorter wavelengths than soft X-ray. Their research motivation is that using a technique of hard X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, chemical state as well as electronic information can be obtained inversively, which helps designing for thin multi-layer devices. In this study, the effects of oxide thickness on the band alignment within a metal oxide semiconductor, MOS multi-layers, was investigated. MOS structure is one of a semiconductor device. This technique will help optimization of each layer's performance. They chose alumina as an oxide material because it is wide band gap and used in solar cell or transparent thin film oxide. In the case of metal, titanium was selected due to its low work function. Work function means it means a minimum required energy to remove electron from a solid. Then, using p-type silicon as a substrate, they made 4 different samples. The thickness of silicon was kept constant. The thickness of alumina was either 23 nanometer or 2 nanometer. Then they call this sample 23AL or 2AL. If those samples have a titanium cap, the sample is called 23 titanium or 2 titaniums. Then they measured XPS spectra for these samples, focusing on carbon 1s, silicon 1s, and aluminum 1s region. So their peak collection method is unique. So I'd like to show here, but in detail, please check later by yourself. So basically, they use the silicon 1s peak for the collection for 2Al and 2 titanium. Then they used advantageous carbon for further collection for 23Al and 23 titanium, because this one, these have very thick alumina, so it cannot detect silicon well. So the explanation of advantageous carbon is here. So anyway, they collected these spectra using carbon 1s peak from this one, obtained from these samples. Then let's compare the results of aluminum 1s XPS spectra from the 4 samples. When you look at the result of 2Al and 2 aluminum and 23 aluminum, no binding shift was observed, while FWHM of 2 aluminum was larger than that of 23 aluminum. This peak broadening came from increase of electron density in interfacial region IL1. IL1 is oxide silicon SiOx layer on the silicon substrate. Why did oxide silicon layer show higher electron density? I will explain in the next slide. Thin oxide silicon contained fixed positive charge. Therefore, it attracts negative charges from alumina and silicon substrates. Since 2Al, 2 aluminum was drawing more aluminum 1s electrons near IL region rather than 23 aluminum, peak broadening was observed in 2 aluminum due to the electrical environment of IL1. So these are the silicon 1s XPS spectra from 23 aluminum sample before and after thermal treatment. The presence of silicon dioxide in IL1 region was confirmed by seeing the increase of silica peak at higher binding energy region. Furthermore, negative shifts of silicon 1s at silicon metal state peak also indicated the increase of electron density in IL1. So actually, there is a second interfacial layer, IL2. In this case, titanium donates electrons to alumina, resulting in increase of electron density in IL2. So now time is almost over, but can I continue explain?
Yes, sure. You can take your time.
Okay,
Don't worry.
so these are the discussion part of their paper. So that's why I included here. So because their purpose is investigation of the influence of oxide thickness on the band alignment, here I'd like to explain each case. So here, gray areas denote location of mobile charge throughout the film stack. In the case of 2 aluminum, in order to cancel out the positive charge in oxide silicon, negative charges are attracted from both silicon and alumina side. Once titanium was contacted, this one, titanium cap donated electrons to alumina, which helps to cancel out the positive charges in oxide silicon. Because alumina thickness is thin, electrons can be transferred from titanium side to oxide silicon side. So when you compare the binding energy of aluminum 1s for 2Al and 2 aluminum and 2 titanium, the negative shift of binding energy in 2 titanium can be explained by this electron transfer from titanium to alumina side. In the case of 23 aluminum, the energy band diagram is the same for 2 aluminum. On the other hand, after titanium cap, electrons were donated from titanium, but those electrons cannot be transferred such long distance in alumina. Therefore, to cancel out the positive charges in oxide silicon, electrons from silicon were provided more. These are the 4 pictures of band diagram for 4 samples. As you can see, XPS is a useful technique to analyze the energy band alignment in multi-layer devices and the influence of the energy levels on the thickness. So this is the summary slide. By looking at a shift and feature of XPS peaks, the environment of the atom of interest can be obtained. Understanding of the processes active during photoelectron emission is required. We spent much time on initial state effects and final state effects. Initial state effects is the effect includes information of bonding with other atoms, ions, and atomic properties before X-ray irradiation. Final state effects is the effect which is induced by the perturbation of the electronic structure, includes information of polarization and rearrangement processes after photoelectron emission. In conclusion, XPS is a powerful surface analytical technique. So these are the references I used. So most part I have learned using this technique, text. So at last, I would like to thank to everyone for listening to my lecture. Especially, I'd like to thank Setia for giving me such a good opportunity. Thank you very much. So although I'm not an expert in XPS, I hope I can answer to your questions. Okay, finish.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marisa. Thank you for your very clear and informative talk. And now we come to the question and answer session. I think we still have around 10 to 15 minutes for a discussion. So for those who want to ask Dr. Mari regarding the talk, please raise your hand on your camera, or you can also text your question, write your question in the Zoom chat room. Okay, any question? Halo, are you there? Ada yang punya pertanyaan? Halo? Okay, Marisa, I have one question regarding the Auger spectrum. As you know, in my last sample measured in JAIS last year in 2019, the Cu2O, you also explained that you record Auger spectrum to help us to identify the sample. But in the case of my first sample in 2016, the Auger electron come up with the iron peak. That's made we got difficulties to analyze the peak. For that case, is it possible in XPS spectrum to use, for example, something like Auger electron cutoff, so we can filter the Auger electron during measurement? Is it possible we do that by using XPS?
Sorry, maybe I think I couldn't get your point clearly. So by cutting off Auger electron, by filtering Auger electron, then what do you want to get or expect?
Okay. The Auger electron sometimes can we can say it like disturb as a noise to our main peak.
Oh,
For example, in my case, iron, when I have to analyze the iron peak in
okay.
2016.
Then
So
you
in that case, is it
want to remove?
yes to remove or
Mm,
to
I
cut
see.
off the Auger's
Only
electron?
OJ
Yes, only
electrons
Auger
in
electron.
that region.
Yeah, in that case. So it will be, if it is possible, it will very helpful for us to get a more, to get clearer a spectrum of our sample. Is it possible?
Because I yes, because OJ electrons and the photoelectrons are the same electrons, and the detected way is the same for those. So removing only OJ electron signals in the region which has your main photoelectron peak is difficult. In that case, you may want to check different position for the element of interest. For example, another 3D or 1s orbital, which doesn't have overlapping with OJ electrons.
Yeah, 2p electron, if I'm right. 2p
Yeah,
electron.
actually, it sometimes happens.
Yeah. So I think it's not. It means it's not possible to filter
As
to
so far I
the
studied, it's
object
not
lecture, right?
possible.
Okay. Thank you. So hello, my lovely student. Do you have any question for Dr. Mari? Is it a good chance for you to discuss about XPS? You have, I think I have to tell you that I also learned about XPS from Dr. Mari in 2016. So, Devi, do you have question?
Which Devi?
Hello? Any question?
Devi, Pak.
Kenapa, Dev?
Which yang mana Devi yang mana?
Okay.
So this time I think it's I put many things, and due to my explanation, some parts was difficult for you to.
I know it is also the first time for my student to learn this topic, but it is good for them because most of my students are the students who do research in material science. Most of them will use XPS to analyze the chemical state of their sample during their many project for their thesis. So
Are they using XPS?
Yeah.
Or
Some of my I
really?
sometimes do a measurement in Malaysia. I do some work there, and if I have time, I also will send some sample to JICE. Okay, it's okay. Dr. Mari, I also invite our head of chemistry department and also our vice dean and research and academic affair to give a closing remark on our lecture. I think Dr. Farah is the head of our chemistry department is already joined us in our virtual room. So maybe you may want to close your share screen, Marisa.
Yeah.
So, once again, thank you for your very clear and informative talk. And personally, I also would like to thank you because I know you must have very tight schedule in JAIS, but you want to spend some times with us in Jakarta. Okay, Dr. Pera, welcome to this guest lecture. This is the second lecture with Dr. Mari Takahashi. And we are going to close these two lectures on XPS, the introduction and interpretation of XPS data. So I'd like to invite you to give a closing remark for this lecture. Dr. Feral, please, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Setiabudi. Hello, Dr. Mari. How are you? Yeah, fine. Thank you. Okay. On behalf of chemistry study program, I would like to say thanks to Dr. Mari from Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology for giving us a lecture about X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy to our student, and also maybe there also our lectures. So this lecture can add to our insight and knowledge more about chemistry material, and hopefully in the future there will be perhaps joint research among the researchers from our study program and with your institutions. And once again, thank you. And maybe if the COVID-19 ends, we can meet in person, maybe in Japan or in Indonesia. Okay, thank you, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Farah, for joining us in this closing ceremony. I know you also have a schedule in Puncak. Thank you so much for joining us. We are still waiting for our Vice Dean to give a closing remark. Please wait, I wanted to call her.
Budi, I'm
Okay.
also in this room meeting.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Prof. Muti. Thank you so much and welcome to our virtual room. Mari, could you please stop your share screen?
Share screen, sorry.
Okay.
This one?
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Bu Muti, Professor
Yes.
Dr. Mukiningsi. Now we are almost finished with our guest lecture, and this is the second lecture for the XPS introduction and data analysis. And in this occasion, I'd like to invite you to give a closing remark in this guest lecture. Prof. Muti, silakan.
Okay, thank you, Pak Budi. Our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Mari Takahashi from School of Material Science, Japan Advanced Institute of Science Technology, dear head of the Chemistry Study Program, all lecturer and students of Chemistry Department of Mathematics and Science Faculty, who I am proud of. It is an honor for me to be able to attend the closing guest lecture organized by Chemistry Study Program and coordinated by Mr. Budi. This activity, I think, is very useful for fostering an academic atmosphere and in the chemistry department of Mathematics and Science Faculty. It's a very good example of how we introduce the international world through research collaboration and integrated research into the learning process, yeah, or in the lecture like this. This can provide insight to the student who what is learned in the lecture room can be developed in the aspect of adding the knowledge or the application of the knowledge learned in society. Yeah. Hopefully, this excellent collaboration and activities can continue to be developed so that the relationship between the chemistry department of UNJ and School of Material Science, Japan Advanced Institute of Science Technology will increase and produce useful value for both parties. Yeah. For my students, yeah, all the students here, take this opportunity to learn more deeply and seek collaboration opportunities for research, or you can further study. So this is the good opportunity to see how our partner develop our the knowledge. Yeah. So this is the good example for another lecture. So thank you very much for Dr. Mari. Yeah, I will. It's not close. This is temporarily close it. Yeah, because I hope it will continue to another time. So by saying Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, I temporarily close this lecture. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Budi. I will give it back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Muktiningsih, our Vice Dean, who has spending her time for joining us in this virtual room. I know, like Dr. Vera, Professor Muktiningsih also has another schedule. It's actually the faculty agenda in Bogor, but thank you so much for attending this closing ceremony. So before we come to the end of our session, I think it is good if we have a picture for all of us. So please on your camera to have the picture with our speaker and our head of department and also our vice dean.
Okay, where is Dr. Mari? Oh, it is.
Okay, Dr. Mari, we have to screen. Alfian, sudah?
Ya.
Sudah Alfian?
Ya, Pak.
Anissa?
Oke, Pak. Bisa, Pak?
Oke ya.
Oke. Dr. Takahashi, Dr. Budi, Dr. Vera, and Dr. Mukti, and our friend, let's take a photo from documentation. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yes. Once again. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Alfian. And finally, we come to the end of our guest lecture. So once again, I would like to thank Dr. Mari for the lecture, Dr. Vera Kurniadewi, our head of department, and also Professor Muktiningsih, our vice dean. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this lecture will be beneficial for everybody who attending this virtual class. Once again, thank you so much and see you in the next lecture. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Mari, thank you so much.
No, thank you very much.
See you and please send my greeting to Sensei.
Yes,
And
of course.
next year, I hope I can invite him to the lecture. If it is still not possible to come physically to Jakarta, maybe we can do it in the virtual classroom. I think like that, Bu Vera, ya. We can also invite the sensei, our sensei, the Professor Mainusono from JAIS to give the lecture. Maybe in the program like Stadium General or other thing. So see you next time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Oke.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye.
See you. Saya izin live ya Pak Budi.
Ya,
Terima
mangga.
kasih ya
Pak Budi.
Ya,
Terima
sama-sama.
kasih untuk Pak Budi dan tim ya.
Ya, Bu Muti, Bu Vera, terima kasih. Oke, sudah ya hari ini. Ya, Spa, jangan tegang. Sudah selesai. Sampai ketemu ya. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Sama.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Ya, sama-sama.
Coba.
Sama.